Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Hope you're all having a great day. And the 2026 draft is officially over. We'll have a full video on Wednesday, giving my grades for every team, all of their picks. But I wanted to do a way too early 2027 draft, a year out from the draft, to get a sense of who the top prospects are and where some of these teams might go now that they have filled some of their needs, and some of the needs still will be needed to be filled. So, with no further ado, let's get into it. And the order based off, or the order that it's based off is based off, I'm pretty sure it's Super Bowl odds. So, the Cardinals apparently have the worst odds, which makes a lot of sense. So first overall, the Cardinals, I'm going with who my top quarterback is, which is Dante Moore. I mean, he was going to be the second overall pick if he had declared this past year. And yeah, I know they invested in the position with Carson Beck, but I don't believe Beck is the franchise guy. They might give him the year to see what he can do, but I think when if he gets to the first overall pick, the Cardinals will sprint in and take him or whoever the top QB is. And I don't think Carson Beck is going to stop them. Like, Beck is a lot older, and a guy of Beck's age is not going to be given multiple years to be given an opportunity. So I think the Cardinals go Dante Moore. Second, the Dolphins. I have them keep Jeremiah Smith in the state of Miami, or state of Florida, where he's from. I mean, he's probably the best player in college football right now, and you could argue him going one, but the Cardinals also don't need receiver. Miami does, and maybe if Malik Willis pans out, you can give him an elite weapon, probably a generational weapon in Jeremiah Smith, who's probably the best receiver since who knows? I mean, I think he's better than Marvin Harrison and Jamar Chase, um, who have been dubbed generational receivers, and Miami gets to bring Jeremiah Smith back to the state of Florida where he's from, and you give that offense a spark that they surely need. Jets at third, had a lot of picks this past year. Gonna have three, but I think with their top pick, they would go quarterback with Arch Manning. It's just the Jets are going to invest into a QB next year. Now they drafted Cade Klubnik, and maybe we get to see him on the field this year if it's like late in the year and the Jets have nothing to play for. But if you're picking this high in a QB draft that is supposed to be elite, I mean, like arguably the best QB draft class in recent memory, you got to go with one. And Arch has really, lived up to the bill. I know he struggled early this past year, but really throughout the season grown and became a better player. And the Jets would have a home run pick here with Arch Manning. Browns at fourth. You know, who knows what Cleveland could be looking for. But I'm gonna go with my third QB off the board, which it seems like he's a lot lower on here. Is Julian Sam, who I think could be a top, maybe the top QB off the board. Was a Heisman finalist this past year. Was amazing at Ohio State, after transferring from Alabama, because he was supposed to be Nick Saban's next quarterback before Saban retired. Transfers to Ohio State, and I think could easily be the top QB in this class. And Cleveland keeps him in the state of Ohio, and they get their QB in the future, hopefully, to finally end this disaster QB situation they've had since moving on from Baker. But on the Raiders at fifth overall have a lot of needs and could go with so many different places. But I'd go with Cam Coleman, the receiver out of Texas. Transfers from Auburn to Texas and has been amazing on a really bad Auburn team his first 2 years. And you have Fernando Mendoza, who, hopefully will show some flashes to where, you don't need to take a QB next year this high. And you can give them an elite receiver, which they don't have. They have plenty of good receivers, but not any great ones. And Coleman would immediately give this team an elite receiver throw to. Falcons at sixth overall. The Falcons are picking this high. I can see QB being the pick, but I think outside of these top three guys, there's not really anybody I would go this high on. So I think they go with the best player available. And I'm going to say Jordan C. LSU tackle transfers from Colorado. Yeah, they lost. I think it was Caleb McGarry to retirement. So they're going to have to fill that hole on the offensive line. And Seaton could be a plug and play guy for hopefully Tua or Michael Penix is the starter next year. Hopefully the Falcons are a lot better come next season. Seventh with the Titans. Could go Trevor Gooseby because could invest into that offensive line. But I'm going to go Dylan Stewart out of South Carolina. A lot of people projecting them to go edge at fourth overall with their pick. Ended up getting Keldrick Falk at the end of the first round, but Stewart is an amazing player. On a bad team in South Carolina. So not many people are going to talk about him. Although a lot of people did talk about him as a freshman when South Carolina was much better. I think Tennessee, Robert Saleh would love this pick and would give him an elite edge. Eighth overall to the Panthers. This is interesting. The Panthers just won the division, and they think the Panthers are going to get worse. Anyway, I'm going to have to go Leonard Moore, the corner out of Notre Dame. He's probably the best corner prospect since Jalen Ramsey. Jeff Okudah, it's arguable. I mean, Carolina has invested a lot into that defensive side of the ball, but I think they can continue. And Moore, who, came in as a freshman in 2024 and really stepped up when Benjamin Morrison got injured, and Moore kind of had to take on that CB1 role. Amazing as a sophomore, and I think will continue to improve as this team moves along. But on to ninth overall with the Saints. Gonna go Colin Simmons out of Texas. Just like Dylan Stewart, an amazing player, has gotten better each year. And, a lot of people thought New Orleans was going to take an edge at eighth overall. They go Jordan Tyson to help out Tyler Shough, but they still need to invest into this defense. I know they traded for Tyree Wilson, and maybe he could have a good year, but if Simmons is on the board at ninth overall, I think New Orleans would be feeling a lot better about this pick and be glad that they can get an elite edge rusher to pair alongside Chase Young and help out that defense for Brandon Staley. Giants at 10th overall went Arvell Reese and Francis Mauigoa in the first round. So they have a lot of interesting decisions. I think they could go with plenty of positions. I think they could go plenty of positions, but I say they invest in Jackson Dart, give him a receiver. I'm gonna say Marion Miller out of Arizona State, the Colorado transfer. A lot of guys in this class transfers from other programs, and yeah, you got Malik Neighbors, who hopefully will have hopefully we'll recover and be great next year. But you don't have much outside of that. Like they brought in Darnell Mooney, brought back Darius Slayton, but still clearly need other weapons for Jackson Dart. And Omarion Miller could give this team an elite wide receiver two for the Giants to help out Dart and have this team, competing year in and year out with talent on both sides of the ball, getting better. Just at 11th, and they could go a lot of different positions. Went Sonny Styles early on to help out that defense. Could go offense, but I think you go defense. I would say David Stone out of Oklahoma. Don't know much about him right now, but Washington needs better interior defensive line. Like they've helped out the edge this past year in free agency and in the draft later on. But you got to help out that interior, and Stone could give this team a elite defensive tackle on the interior. And this class, 2027, is considered generational. Like there are going to be guys who go like late first or early second. Then other drafts could be like top 10, top 15 picks. So it'll be interesting to see if this class lives up to the hype, or like past classes, it's not as good as people expected it would be. On to the Jets with their second pick. Obviously went with Arch Manning earlier in the draft. I think you go on the defensive side. They really invested into this offense. Although couldn't go receiver, and I wouldn't hate it. Where is Brian Williams? 64. That was crazy. I know he had a down year, but I think they'd go defensive side of the ball, and I say they go with KJ Bolden down to Georgia. Georgia safety going in the first round. We've heard that before, but Minka Fitzpatrick, I don't think he has much use left on his contract, and he may just be a veteran out there for this year. But they got to improve that defense. They did it with David Bailey, and then they run D'Angelo Bonds and some other guys on day three, but gotta get impact players now on the defensive side since they've invested a lot onto the offensive side, especially with two of their three first round picks. Last year, Vikings at 13th. One of the surprise picks, the first round going Caleb Banks. And then didn't have many good picks outside of really out. Didn't have many good picks throughout the draft. It was clearly a very coach oriented draft because they don't have a true GM. They have an interim one, so it's clear that the coaches valued more players than a lot of people else did. So I think with this pick at 13, could go a lot of different directions. But I would say they go Xavier Brown out of Alabama. Needed corner help for a while. And, you know, Isaiah Rodgers, I think, will end a contract this year. Byron Murphy would have a year left on his contract unless they extend him when the 2027 draft would be around. So they need secondary help. Xavier Brown would be an amazing selection. Steelers at 14th. A lot of different positions could go QB, but you have invested in that position. I don't know if they would go quarterback here. Maybe they would. Have them go with no receiver with Mario Craver out of A&M. Exploded on the scene this past year with a really good year. Casey Concepcion's teammate, who I think Craver was a better receiver, and I think the Aggies would be, I think the Steelers would be a great position. They've needed a receiver for a while, and who knows if Pittman or Metcalf will still be great in next season. Bucks at 15. I'm gonna go with them. Go with Tay Johnson. I don't know. Defensive back with Leonard Moore, and they've invested a lot into this defense with Bank and Scott, plenty others, but still they I think could improve this defense and would be a really good pick. Bengals, I mean Jets with their third first round pick here. I'm guessing this would that would be probably the Colts pick. So whoever they think at 12, um, went with um went oh, went Arch Manning and went KJ Bolden. I think you go on the defensive side. I'm saying Monmouth out of Miami. A great defensive passion for the Canes. I think they could invest a defensive tackle. I know they've invested a lot with Devontae Sweat. I think they drafted somebody on day 3. I forget who it was. Moan could be an impact player right away for a defense that was very bad this past year. Bengals at 17th. I'm gonna go defensive side of I'll go defensive side with Quincy Rhodes out of Arkansas. A guy who instant impact, really talented guy. And look, the Bengals bring in Dexter Lawrence. So they're investing into this defense hopefully, and they need to get a much better pass rush up there for this team. Because they have some guys in the secondary, even at the linebacker core, where that defensive line is just much better. The Bengals can have a much better defense and be competing. Jags at 18th. Could go a lot of different directions. Yeah, I'm go. Yeah, I'm gonna go receiver. There's been talks about Brian Thomas Jr. being traded, even though I think it'd be a little insane to trade a guy who, once upon a time was, seen as like maybe the best receiver from his class, but they need to invest in the position, especially with Travis Hunter moving full time to corner. Yes, they have Jacoby Myers and Parker Washington. Washington on the final year of his deal, so who knows if they get an extension there? Could replace him with a really talented guy who had a down sophomore year, but I think could boost right back up as a junior. Bears at 19th. I like their draft. I don't know Trevor Gooseby, who could go a lot higher than this, was actually projected to be like a day 2 pick this past year. Came back, could really boost his stock, and they have really forfeits to the offensive line invested into, especially when they drafted Logan Jones at center to hopefully be the future of that center position for the Bears. But they still have left tackle, which is a huge hole for this team. It's not a huge hole. They do need to invest into it, especially with the guys they've had at left tackle having injury concerns. And I think Gooseby could be a phenomenal pick for this team. Broncos at 20th. I'm gonna go Jamari Johnson, you know, tight end out of Oregon, which a lot of people thought Sadiq could be that guy to Denver before they traded out. They get him. Denver doesn't have many big weaknesses on this team. They do great with like drafting and bringing in players. I think Jamari Johnson, the next great Oregon tight end, could really focus in. Texans at 21st. We'll go with sure who to go with here at 21st for the Texans. You could say guard, but they invested with Keelan Rutledge, have Ed Ingram. And if there was a center prospect, then could think about it. Tackle's also a possibility because who knows how much longer Braden Smith's going to be in the league. But I think I'm going to go running back here. Now they brought in David Montgomery, but could invest into the future of the position with Keewan Lacy. I think there could be multiple running backs. Maybe the second consecutive year going in the first round. Lacy, the guy we'll get to later, was great at Ole Miss this past year. Could have been a player that was drafted this year but came back. And I think Houston could get the future of that position with Lacy. They have David Montgomery, but could bring in a younger guy to be that future of the position and give this team a legit running back for 5+ years. Moving on to the Eagles at 22nd. Could go a lot of different positions. Could go guard. I'm gonna go with Kenyatta Jackson Jr. out of Ohio State. Did bring in Jonathan Grenard, but Nolan Smith is up for a contract. Has not gotten it yet. So maybe this is a prove-it year for Smith to be fully healthy. And if he doesn't get that extension, maybe the Eagles want to invest into the position. Howard Roseman always thinking ahead of these picks, and Kenyatta Jackson could make a lot of sense. Lions at 23rd. I'm gonna go Austin Siravalde. I think that's how you pronounce it. Siravalde. Need to get back to helping out that offensive line. Bond Blake Miller in the first round to move over to the right side as Soul moves over to the left side. So could invest into the interior offensive line to help this offensive line out. Chargers at 24. Maybe host Siravalde could have fell there. I think I'm gonna go receiver with. I think I'm gonna go with Amari or Manti Uiagalelei, the younger brother of DJ Uiagalelei, the quarterback who, funny enough, is actually on the Chargers. A lot of people thought they'd go edge, which they did with Mesidor. Khalil Mack isn't going to be there forever. Still need to invest into this position, and I think could get a really talented player. Pats at 25th. I'm going to go interesting pick for the Patriots. Some might say receiver could be a possibility. Some could say on the defensive side, edge. Prince Will, Emmanuel, a corner with Ashton Hampton. Clemson corner going in the first round. Carlton Davis isn't going to be there forever. Christian Gonzalez is going to get that huge payday, so they're going to need young DBs, young players all around to help out. And I think Ashton Hampton could be a really good fit on this defense for the Pats. Niners at 26th. I'm going to go Blake Frazier. Blake Frazier. Michigan, Trent Williams did get an extension, so, there's nothing to, for him to be traded, but still need to help out this offensive line, and Frazier is a great pick. Cowboys at 27th. I'm going to go with Ellis Robinson, the Georgia corner. This would be the Packers pick, I would presume, which means Dallas wouldn't have the first round pick because they traded whoever had the better pick between them and Green Bay would go to New York in that Quentin Williams trade. But Ellis Robinson, would be a phenomenal pick. A lot of people thought the Cowboys might go corner, so I think it'd be a phenomenal pick. Chiefs at 28. I'm gonna go Charlie Becker out of Indiana. It'd be the second consecutive year in Indiana receiver would go. A lot of people pencil him in possibly at one of their two picks to go with a um with a receiver, but didn't, but still could go, especially with Rasheed Rice being up for a contract extension and Xavier Worthy not really living up to the hype so far as a first round receiver. Ravens at 29th. I'm going to go Cade Piper. I guess it would be out of Iowa, which they would replace one Iowa center, Tyler Linderbaum, with a new one in Cade Piper. It didn't go center this past year. Maybe content with the guys they have, but definitely could invest into that center position, which the Ravens have done plenty of years throughout their um, history as a team. Seahawks at 30th. I'm gonna go with interesting pick for the Seahawks. I don't have many needs. I think it'd be a defensive side pick. I think I could have them go with Prince Will Monmielen, giving them an and lose Boye Mafe. You do have a lot of talented guys on that defensive line, but just help out, improve it. Bills at 31st. I'm gonna go Amari Washington. Oh, another guy who came back, could have been a first round pick this past year. And the Bills have invested a lot into that defense, but they need to invest a lot more. And then 32nd, the Rams, Drew Estemaker, who I think could end up being a first round pick. Let's see they go tackle with Anthony Knapp out of Notre Dame. Really talented pick. Keeping Stafford upright. Maybe it's Ty Simpson in 2027 after the Rams won the Super Bowl, according to this. But that'll do it for today's video. Hope you guys like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And I'll catch you guys in my next video. But until then, hope you have a great day. Bye.